Hello, sewing friends. Thanks for visiting the TurboPurr channel, where we love the sound of happy cats and smooth running sewing machines. My name is Ramona. Today I'm showing the ByAnnie A Place for Everything 2.0 bag that I made. I purchased this ByAnnie pattern at a quilt shop, and I made it using just some fabrics that I already had. And the instructions with the pattern are excellent, they're very clear. ByAnnie also provides how-to videos on assembling this pattern, and there's also some YouTubers that have shown how-tos about putting this together. So I'm not going to be talking so much about the construction of it as much as the variations that I made in putting it together to personalize it and for what I wanted, and also some things about sewing it with the serger. It's a great bag for organizing sewing supplies. So these are the supplies that I used. There are quite a few zippers that are needed, and I have quite a collection of zippers already, so I got to use a lot of those when making this. The pattern includes instructions for making vinyl and mesh pockets. Also, some fold over elastic is needed for some of the mesh pockets. So there's quite a few supplies. The instructions are basically um, can be used with either a standard sewing machine, or for some of the seams, I use the serger. I like to take, when there's a long list of pattern pieces like this, I like to take the sheet of paper and use a piece of, it's a sheet of iron-on stabilizer where one side is fusible and the other side is sticky. It's used for appliquing. The side that is sticky is kind of similar to a post-it note where you can pick it up and move it if you like. So I fused the paper instructions to a sheet of that stabilizer, and then I cut apart all the pieces, the labels, and then I attached them to all the different pieces of fabric and to the different pieces of notions and everything that are mentioned in this list, and it makes it a lot easier as far as organizing everything. This bag is pretty substantial and holds quite a lot. So it's a really nice bag if you have a lot of presser feet, or any type of craft supplies where you need a lot of different compartments to put them in. And it also has this nice outside zipper as well, and D-rings for a D-rings for the detachable shoulder strap. I want to mention that I used a serger chain stitch to do the cross hatching on um, on the on the bag. The bag has a foam type of stabilizer on it that gives it some loft and helps the bag to hold its shape nicely, gives it some body and shape. And I used a variegated thread to do the chain stitch quilting. Also, in the outside pockets shown here with the seam going up, I had a charm that says I love quilting, so I sewed that to the top of that seam just as an embellishment. And I also had a rivet with a colored stone on it that I used. I have a rivet installer. If you wanted to, another option would be just to use a decorative button at the top of this seam. Where there is a seam like this that's dividing a couple of pockets, I like to use a reinforcement like a rivet or a button as a decorative element, and also just to kind of protect that seam right there. I like fusible foam handles, so one of my variations on this pattern was to make the handles with this fusible foam stabilizing rather than to use covered webbing as was mentioned in the instructions. So the way I did this is that I fused the red fabric to one side of the fusible foam and then took a strip, pardon me, of the striped fabric and sewed one side with the serger. The strip was cut wider to allow the turn around the fabric to go around the thickness, so there was some extra room in there for it. And then sewed the other side again with a 3-thread overlock stitch on the serger. Then turned it right side out and finally stitched in the ditch with the sewing machine along the 2 seams, and then sewed that to the bag. And this bag is really nice in that it has the 2 zipper pulls that allows for easy opening and closing. ByAnnie sells zippers at many quilt shops. Those are very nice and has all the hardware that you need to make a pattern like this. It's just a really nice design, I think, that holds so much. This is my variation on the detachable shoulder strap, and I used ByAnnie hardware to make this. It's very sturdy looking hardware, as you can see. The variations that I did is I had quite a lot of this decorative trim. I had quite a lot of yardage of it, and I thought that the colors in it went with the butterfly colors on the outside of the bag. So I used it over the webbing to create the strap. And also because I thought that my bag might end up being somewhat heavy once I had all my supplies in it, I created this padded shoulder pad, and I used some of the foam stabilizer and sewed it together and then put a binding like a quilt binding around the top of it. And this is a picture of the inside of the bag. The 2 red straps with the black Velcro allow for the pages inside to be removed and to be put back. So the idea is that if you have your sewing supplies in here and you're at a class or something and you need to take a certain page out, that you can take the page out to have easy access to your supplies, and then you can put everything back in it later. And here is the Velcro strap connected and holding in the pages securely. I made a little bit of a mistake when I was making this bag. Somehow or other, I think I made the pages just a little too wide, so I thought I'd mention that. That is something to be careful of when you're constructing this, because when I put the pages in the bag and I'm zipping everything up, it's definitely fills the bag up completely. So I use my bag to keep my sewing supplies. I have a couple of different sewing machines, and I dedicated this bag to holding my supplies for one of my machines. So I keep all the same brand of presser feet and supplies in it. This is a one of the mesh zippered pockets on the inside, and I find it easier to use a sticky wash away stabilizer as a backing on the mesh before cutting it out. So I put the mesh on a sticky wash away stabilizer, and then I measure it to the measurements that are specified and have it marked with those measurements, and then cut it out, and then I sew it uh, to the zipper with the wash away stabilizer still attached. Now, since um, I don't ever plan on washing this bag, in order to remove it, then I remove the stabilizer just by tearing off the wash away instead of washing it away. And I find that that really helps to control this net fabric. I'm not so good at handling net, and it's one of those things that just makes it easier just to have a sticky wash away attached to it during the sewing process. And here are some additional pages that some of them are zipper pockets with clear vinyl. The pocket with the black zipper has two zippers on it that have pulls coming in, um, so that you can close one or both pockets. Some of the um, pockets only have a single zipper, and this is totally your preference how you like to have your pockets done. I like the mesh pockets a lot because you can see through them, and they still have some stretch to them if you're putting something bulky in there. And here's a close-up showing some details on these zippers. And there is enough room in this case to allow me to hold some of my bulkier sewing machine accessories. And finally, after removing the boxes, I'm showing you the um, the slip pocket that has a fold over elastic attached at the top. It's a very well designed bag. It is a little more challenging than some of the other bag patterns to construct, um, but the instructions are very clear, and sewing it on the serger, I think, really helps with time management on making something like this. This is another picture of the outside of the bag with the D-ring for the shoulder strap. And I'd like to thank you very much for watching, and have a wonderful day and happy stitching to you. And my cats have gone missing. I think they've gone to go take a nap, so they'll be back next time. Thanks a bunch. Bye-bye.